Robyn, welcome to the Digital Media 10 to 1.
Thank you for having me.
No, thank you for joining us. So let's kick off with you giving us an insight into what Imbibe's about and what your main focuses are editorially.
So Imbibe's focused on the UK hospitality. So the majority of our audience will be sommeliers or bartenders, bar managers, operators of restaurants or bars or pubs. Also, we touch on the supplier side. We're very drinks focused. So we look about the sort of business of drinks really in the on-trade. So suppliers might look at us as well, distillers, brewers, that sort of thing.
Perfect. Okay, and obviously that's been massively affected by our present lockdown. So, I mean, I'm guessing that, your focus is very much about, the effect of that with the pandemic on that. But how are you looking at the future and as we come out of the lockdown?
Yeah, so in terms of our content, that changed quite a lot as soon as lockdown happened. We moved from doing drinks news and information and training and learning about categories and selling and stuff to kind of practical help overnight, helping people fill out forms, where to go for charitable help. And then we shifted and then news that was coming out. And then we shifted from that to a kind of people being at home and on furloughs. There's lots of training and learning facilities. And we did a lot of kind of community stuff, asking people how they're keeping themselves amused and what they were learning. We've done beer recipes. And now we're moving into the next stage as we're looking to open up the industry again about what that's going to look like and how that's physically going to work.
Yeah, and from the PR side, have you been getting contacts about those kind of stories, or would you like to see more of that going forward?
There was a fair bit to start with, especially from the big companies. That to credit to them, a lot of the big drinks companies moved really fast to put in place systems and help for bartenders who are out of work. That tailed off, and obviously there's been none of our bread and butter news. There's been hardly any product launches or events, tastings. That's all been cancelled. But now that is coming back in again. There's definitely been a bit more PR action as sort of the last 2 weeks, I'd say, and ramping up again. Yeah, I mean, I think the more information from whatever sources, the better. So hopefully, if there is anything that agencies want to send us, that they're doing so, and we'd certainly welcome it.
And from the quarterly publication, I think you have your next one due to come out in July. How far into that are you, and what more would you like to get from the PR industry for that?
Well, we're probably about a third of the way into that process, and it's a completely different issue. So we just felt we couldn't bring out a normal issue of Imbibe, which is very kind of work-based, drinks-based. It felt inappropriate, and also there wasn't really enough about. So we've conceived of an idea of a community issue. So it's almost a sort of crowd-sourced magazine. So it's lots of input from our community of bartenders and sommeliers and bar managers about what they've been doing, how they've coped, what training they've been doing, and looking to the future to how they're expecting to manage that move back into work, into when pubs and bars open up. So it's a very different issue for us. Certainly, we've been focusing on getting community content, but that doesn't mean that, agencies and clients don't have a role. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, definitely please get in touch if anyone thinks they've got anything around that, or they know of any of their clients that have been doing stuff. I think we'd be happy to give anyone who's been doing good work a massive shout out. That's really what this issue is going to be about.
Perfect. And in terms of the online side, what's the best time for people to get hold of you? How's your day structured?
Yeah, so there's a team of 3 of us on editorial who work full time. It has changed a bit, actually. 2 of us have children, so we've had to switch our hours around a bit. But basically, we're all around in the main part of the day between about 10 and 4, and there's people around that. So my colleague starts about 7:30, so he can finish early because he's got a real young daughter. I start about 10 and I finish about 6 or later. So it doesn't really matter. We're at our laptops far more than we normally are. We're normally a team that's out and about a lot. There's a lot of events in the drinks industry, a lot of tastings, a lot of product launches, a lot of meeting suppliers, and that's all, ground to a halt, really. So I'd say we're much easier to get hold of at the moment than normal.
Yeah, like a lot of us.
Yeah.
And in terms of your experience with the PR industry, what are the good ones doing that you could then give insight to everyone else as to what works well for you and information you get?
I think that hasn't changed from normal, really. If they're aware of what we're doing, and especially the way that our content's currently changed slightly, and in their approaches they sort of reflect that, that's really good. And a lot of people have been understanding. So some of the old sort of press releases of new products, kind of PRs have been saying, I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but I thought I'd send it anyway. And I think that's fair enough approach. As always, the things that are annoying when people, send you stuff you've either already run or refused to run, or you just haven't checked out exactly what you're doing. But I think that hasn't changed from normal. I think that's always relevant to PR industry.
Yeah, and have you been doing anything different, online, etc.? I don't know, podcast, things like that, during this lockdown?
Yeah, we've talked for a long time about having a lot more kind of rich media and doing a lot more social only content and launching a podcast. And I will say that this period has been a massive opportunity, and we've done all of that. Podcast is due to come out imminently. Our first one, which we've recorded, is just being tweaked. We've done a load of kind of Instagram lives and Instagram interviews, looking at Facebook live stuff as well. We've even managed to run so we normally do tastings in the magazine, which we normally hold physically, but we've managed to do those remotely using different tools. So yeah.
Very good. And in terms of that sort of content, are you wanting to get access to new people?
Always, yeah, definitely. I think everywhere I've ever worked, there's always a sort of pool of industry, wheel them out, and you can always get a quote out of them, and they're very needed for sure. But the wider, broader base you can have of those people you can rely on for comment, that you just know, I know who can talk about, who will talk about that, and who will be really good, then the better. So yeah, especially now with we're really ramping up online content, and our figures are going up and engagement's going up. But it means, it's like feeding a toddler. You're constantly trying to get stuff out.
So are there any particular sort of industries and roles you've been interested to hear from?
Just not just a broader base of our normal. So what anyone's doing who used to work in a bar or a pub, or who is a distiller or a brewer, or some of the drinks charities we've approached for a bit more comment than perhaps we ordinarily would, because they've been right at the kind of grassroots of this and seeing this some of the really bad effects. But yeah, owners, anyone who's had a particularly good or bad experience. I mean, we're looking at things like insurers now. They haven't paid up, so we're doing a series of features on kind of how to tackle that, how to approach your insurance company, whether you should keep going with a claim or not. We did think on cybersecurity, so which we'd never have touched normally. It's really not anything that Imbibe would go near, but when you had a load of bars suddenly trying to run online ordering and home delivery, InfoSec stuff became quite relevant. So we ran a series of features on that. So we are diversifying a bit. So yeah, maybe from industries that maybe thought we wouldn't look at them before, such as e-commerce or online security, might now, might be worth having a chat with us.
Perfect. That's very, very good insight. Now, I realise we've just got a minute or so to go. You mentioned obviously about events. What's your happening for you, and when do you think you're likely to get back to a sort of bit of normality?
Well, we were lucky enough to get one of our major events, two at the beginning of the year, out of the way. So we did Personality of the Year, which we managed to run, and we have our Sommelier Wine Awards, which is a big one for us, and we managed to get that out of the way before this whole lockdown started. Unfortunately, Imbibe Live, which is huge for us, which should have happened at the end of June, has been postponed to next year. But we are hoping to run some virtually. So we've got No and Low Taste Awards for No and Low products. That's gone ahead, but virtually. And we're looking at hopefully running more virtual online events, and fingers crossed, some sort of smaller boutique events, much more targeted towards the end of Q3, Q4, obviously depending on what government advice is at that point.
Well, that's great. Well, I think the PR industry will be very interested to help out on that side too. Robyn, we've come to the end of our 10 minutes. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time today.
Thank you very much.
Look forward to catching up again soon.
Thank you.